and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, has council had the opportunity to review the meeting minutes from November 15th? If so, how do you wish to proceed?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second that.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Changes to this evening's agenda. Hearing none, I'll ask for approval of the set agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Those in favor can state aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Guests in open forum. If there's anybody here. Seeing no one, we're going to move into committee reports. Budget and Finance Committee.
Budget and Finance met on November 17th. We went over all the financials as we usually do. Total memberships for BCC are now at about 921. We talked about past due utility bills. They were down to about 15,000 with some payments still being made. And we talked about the Public Works contract that was taken care of in October.
Okay. How about Police Management?
Police management met mid-November. We do have an offer extended for a part-time officer. Still in the works on that. Stats were up over 21 and 20, down a little bit since for compared to 2019. We had an update on the facility study group that we've been working with. Also talked about the new body cams being deployed, which seems we're on our second round of them already. That seems not that long ago that we were just approving those, and here we are on the second batch of them already. So, with the forfeiture funds, we talked about a purchase of another a thermal imaging camera. And so with the forfeiture funds, there's a limited use on what we can use those for, and so that was a good use there. So we talked about that. That was about it.
How about Excel Energy?
Excel Energy, we met, actually might have been the same day, it was Friday. And it was basically, so we had a representative from the school, the county, city, and Excel, of course, and basically a trading of information.
Okay. Fire Joint Powers Board, we continue to kind of hammer out the JPA that is in existence. We're working on clarifying it and just I guess, uncovering issues that are set in the JPA that are not being followed at this time. So that have evolved with time and processes and technology. So we're continuing to work on that. And I think 2023 is probably when we're going to have the vast majority of that discussion. How about Park and Rec?
Park and Rec, excuse me, met on November 21st. We had a presentation from the St. Cloud Disc Golf Board member about possibly updating or providing us bids for new nets. I guess they're called nets. Mm-hmm. We talked about the sledding hill at City Park and possibly making that larger. Parkland dedication fees from Avalon Estates will be used for changing area and restrooms possibly over at the splash pad area. We talked about the community center rates that are going to be going up after the first of the year. They're making ice at Colbinger. That was about it.
All right. Joint Planning Board.
Joint Planning, excuse me, met on November 22nd. We heard one preliminary and final plat for approval from the Gapin family. That was it.
How about the Planning Commission?
Planning Commission, we met last Monday. There was a continuation of the school CUP application that's going to be continued to the December meeting, which is December 19th because of the holiday. We're closed on the 26th. We had a call for a public hearing on, any guess which chapter?
11.
Chapter 11. This is in relation to,
It's either 11 or 7.
yep. This is in relation to solar energy farms. It's more of cleaning up of some language in there. So we'll have a call for a public hearing on the 19th as well. And then we also discuss Sac and Whack updates.
All right, any other,
And we had updates too on the AUR, the master plan, the annexation, so.
yes. Any other committees that were skipped or missed? No? All right, we'll move into administrator and staff reports. The proposed labor agreement with Streets, Public Works, and Parks Union. Mr. LaRude.
Mayor Bertram, City Council members, on October 21st, the Human Resources Director, Public Services Director, Finance Director, myself met with union representatives to talk about the expiring contract, and I'm pleased to say we reached a tentative agreement that date. The red line copies have been included with the agenda packet. I'll just highlight a couple of things here. It is a 3-year agreement concluding December 31st, 2025. For the wages, similar to the police, it called for a $2 market rate adjustment for 23 and 24 with a 5% increase, and then in 2025 a 4% increase. With those increases, it still is consistent. Those positions are consistent within the city's overall compensation plan. The vacation language was identical to what was already approved in the police department, and we do plan to bring that language for council approval for the remainder of the staff at the next meeting this year, so everybody will have uniform language there. The union members did vote and voted to approve this contract. Both finance and personnel committees have reviewed and recommended bringing forward to the city council for approval, and the request tonight is if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but if not, a motion and a second, and a simple majority is required to approve the contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the labor agreement between the Park Streets Public Works employees and the City of Becker.
Second that?
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Call for public hearing for consideration of changes to the city fee schedule. Ms. Bleasy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So at the end of each year, staff brings forward changes to the city's fee schedule for consideration. According to statute, this does need to be done by ordinance, which also requires a public hearing. So tonight, I request that council call for a public hearing at the next meeting to consider changes to the fee schedule.
I'll make a motion to call for a public hearing on December 20th at approximately 5 p.m. to consider addressing the city's fee schedule.
I'll second that.
All right, any other discussion on that? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Annexation of 3 properties. Mr. Sanders.
Seems like a longer walk. Maybe I'll sit at the front next time. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Before you tonight, we are seeking approval for Resolution 2285. So there's 3 parcels involved in this. There's 2 that the city owns and 1 that was actually petitioned by the owner of a 35-acre parcel that's out off the north of Edgewood, adjacent to Savannah Village to the west. They petitioned for it, paid the fees for the application. The town board approved unanimously of the annexation at their November 21 meeting. And these 3 parcels will now clean up all of the city-owned ones because we missed these on the last one. And then the 35-acre parcel, a rezone, is likely to follow that. We haven't received the application yet, but we'll notify the applicant that this is pending your approval. If it's approved, we'll let them know, and then we'll proceed with letting them know the next process of rezoning. It would likely be designated as an R2 if brought into the city, so a mid-density residential. If there are any questions, I will answer them.
Is R2 what the comp plan?
Yeah, so mid-density, which aligns with our R2 district.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2285, joint resolution between Becker Township and the City of Becker with the annexation of the 3 properties.
Second?
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda, Mr. LaRude.
Mayor Bertram, city council members, the items on the consent agenda tonight include approval of the hiring and termination report as revised for Pebble Creek Golf Club, Becker Community Center, and Public Services Streets. Adopting Resolution 22-84, accepting the following donations: $400 from Hubbard Electric for holiday lighting, $100 from Centricare Health Foundation for Kindness Week supplies, $3,000 from the Becker Lions Club for Snuffy's Landing Project. Adopting Resolution 22-80, approving an application from the Becker Big Lake Ice Association to conduct lawful gaming at 14298 Bank Street Southeast. Approved new cannabinoid licenses for eSig Innovations and Speedway Store. Approved 2023 tobacco license renewals as presented. Approved 2023 combination massage establishment business and massage therapist license renewals as revised. Adopt Resolution 22-88, approving grant application to the Initiative Foundation and accepting $35,000 grant to conduct a comprehensive water plan. Adopt Resolution 22-87, approving a modification to Resolution 22-83 to approve additional equipment and expense in the purchase of the Snow Wolf snow blower. And I'll stand for any questions you have.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Payment of the bills.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Anniversary announcements for the month of December. We have two. Bart Gevins is our recreational service manager over at the community center, and he is celebrating 4 years with us. And then Julie Krenz is the administrative assistant over at the community center, and she's celebrating her first year of full-time, but she has been with us in a part-time capacity at a various job at the community center, and that would make her 15 years here with the city. So congratulations to those individuals. I'm going to ask council to make a motion to go into recess. We have our truth and taxation presentation, but that's not until 6 p.m. this evening. So
I'll make a motion to go into recess until 6 p.m.
Second.
motion from Rick, second from Robin. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
We are in recess at 5:13 p.m. and we'll be back shortly before 6. The recess has ended and the meeting will come to order at 6 p.m. Mr. Ebensteiner, Truth in Taxation 2023 Budget Presentation.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council, those in the audience. So here tonight to present the 2023 final budget and levy, really known as the Truth in Taxation opportunity to present the budget levy, answer any council questions, get any public input at this time, and then also discuss the approval. So jumping in, I'll just go over just a quick agenda. So I'll walk through my presentation, have a PowerPoint prepared that I'll walk through and discuss, answer any questions for council, allow an opportunity for public comment and questions, and then have a few resolutions related to the adoption of the budget and the levy. So starting off, just wanted to take a look at the budget calendar. It is a long and thorough process that we go through to establish the budget. Really start off in that June-July timeframe, get into a lot of the operational and CIP budgets. Just wanted to highlight a few dates. Really July 26th, 27th, those are some key dates. City Council and staff get together in a few lengthy workshops and really go into the details, lay out a lot of the budget assumptions and have some deep discussions and establish really a starting point. Continuing on, July into August, working on, once again, vetting a lot of those budgets. And then this year, the preliminary budget was approved and established on September 6th. And then we did submit that to the county by the due date of September 30th. And then continued on, did have some enterprise discussions in October. And then fast forward to tonight, where we have the Truth in Taxation. We'll walk through the governmental funds that we're looking at budgets for, as well as the enterprise funds. So laying the groundwork, really any budget should be focused on the core values of a city. The values that are set up, leadership, excellence, trust, innovation, collaboration, stewardship, transparency, professionalism, and accountability. Tonight's presentation with the budget really focus on that stewardship piece, as well as transparency, using the resources in a responsible manner, as well as including our taxpayers in the process. So really really what the TNT process was established for, to really focus on what are the resources being used for, and then also get that public input on that as well. So starting with an overview, preparing any budget, you're looking at your revenues and expenses. So for us as a city, our primary expenses on the program side, we have our general government, really focuses on our admin, city council, planning, public safety, gets into the PD, as well as building inspections. We have our public works and streets, parks and rec, and economic development. On the revenue side, you have your tax levies. Primarily those are the revenues in, say, the general fund and some of our special revenue funds. And then we also have some licenses and permits, some other agency governments, often referred to as intergovernmental revenues, as well as charges for services. So we do have some of those in our governmental funds, but also have significant amount of charges for services that drive a lot of the revenues that come in at the community center and Pebble Creek. And then we also get just some other miscellaneous sources that flow in as well. So really balancing those revenue and expenses and understanding where those sources are coming from and what those uses are with the outlays. On the expense side, really an overview, the general fund budget this year, $5,085,030, an increase of 9.3%. Starting off with general government, $1,866,084. This is really the city council, administrator, city clerk, finance, some of our professional services with our accounting services, legal, as well as planning. Public safety, $1,528,593, primarily made up of our police department, but also have some fire relief. We have some pass-through revenues that come through that we pass on. As well as we do have some building inspection in there as well. And then on the public services side, that makes up our public works as well as our parks budget. So just have a little under 1.7 million there. And really, as a service provider, as you're all aware, the essential part of any government is the delivery is our staff. So wage inflation, compensation changes are acknowledged within this budget that we've talked about with a lot of our assumptions. And then in addition, the anticipated utility costs are included. So really that's driving a lot of those operational costs is what those utilities are, be it natural gas or electricity or fuel charges that we've all seen in our budgets as well. Looking at a breakout of general fund expenses, really here, general government makes up the largest part, be it the administrative services piece at 37%, public safety at 30%, and then that public services, a combination of public works and park and recreation, make up right around 34%. So almost like a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 between those three items, and that has been consistent with prior years. And that can be seen through this chart. I mean, you definitely see the increase in these expenditures, but you also see the relationship between each of them as well. They've increased, but have been consistent with the percentages across the functional departments. Transitioning over to some of our special revenue funds. So on the expense side, community center expense budget, $1,211,282. That's an increase of 0.6%. Fire at $573,700, an increase of 5.5%. EDA at $263,686, an increase of 19.9%. And then golf expenses budgeted at $2,853,234, an increase of 13.1%. An item to note, it's on the revenue side, but we are proposing a $0 operational levy for Pebble Creek. We have had some great operational results in that fund over the last few years. We had set a goal in prior years to have a zero levy by 2025. So here we are, a couple years early, which is great to see. And we'll continue to monitor that and continue to look at where the CIP levy is for some of our other funds as well. On the revenue, kind of switching gears onto the revenue budget overview. So really this is where that funding comes from. So when we are looking at our funds, we're looking at where those other sources are coming from, be it the licensing and permits, the other intergovernmental charges or services. So we're looking at some of those fee-for-service things where we're providing a service and collecting those revenues. So we're looking at where are our building permits going to land? What are our estimations with the planning department of what are our expectations? Once we set those revenue expectations, then we can look at where that tax levy needs to be, by category, and those remaining funding requirements, where operations are at, what's necessary for capital improvements, as well as where some of that debt service is in place as well. So the revenue breakout, as in prior years, taxes make up a large percentage at 91%. The other 9% is made up of a combination of licenses and permits, intergovernmental charges or services, and then just some other revenues. So definitely, a large portion is taxes. As our community grows, we're nearing that 5,000 mark. And the makeup of our tax capacity with the power plant transitioning, there may be opportunities as we look for diversifying our revenue sources, be it local government aid. We'll continue to monitor that over time as some of those come in. But primarily, taxes make up that large portion. And then with this chart, you'll see as well. It just drives home that taxes do make up a large portion. And what those other revenue sources are. So looking at the proposed levies, the overall levy in 2022 was $8,973,574. The proposed levies an increase to $9,813,299. It's a 9.4% increase. Starting with the general fund, really as a people-focused organization, really investing in our staff, people that provide those services, as well as those utilities, be it electric, natural gas, and fuels, really drove a lot of those increases. Noting the EDA, that's an increase from 215 to 239. That's really set really close to the max. It's set as a percentage of our overall market value. So we are looking to maximize that out at 239. If you recall from our prior slide, we had expenses of around 260,000. We are proposing within the 2023 budget to spend some of the reserves from prior years. We have some one-time items with some code updates and some additional items, one-time expenditures that we're looking to complete in 2023, as well as just continue to set aside some reserves for some future economic development activities. Community center, their increase from 543 up to 574. Their utility costs and wages are the key driver. Memberships continue to recover, and I know the community center is always looking at increasing and bettering their programming. So just in line with those goals that they have. We see the golf levy that's decreased from 84,000 down to 0. As a reminder, in 2021 it was just slightly over 200,000. So great to see that operational levy decrease. Debt service in line with our debt covenants, and then the capital levy increasing from 2,604,000 up to just a little over 3 million, and that's really the investment, really that focus on streets and infrastructure, and we'll cover that in the next slide as well. So a little deeper on the capital levies. Here's a breakout of the capital, revolving capital levies over the last 5 years. As you can see, the big driver is within Public Works, increasing to a little over $2 million in 2023. Really focus on the street reconstruction and improvement, and just really the drive to maintain and improve that infrastructure. We are really looking at front loading some of the additional street projects. We've received some great economies of scale where we've bundled projects together when we've had a contractor come to town, and we've been able to get some great bidding on that. And also just looking at better matching the decommissioning of Sherco starting in 2024. So really, we have also looked at, to expand on the revolving capital side, as we've discussed in our sessions. We've really focused on that long-term plan where these levies will support us long-term, and we won't have as many dips and peaks, but consistent levies, focusing on maintaining the tax rate and the levy at a consistent basis to support that long-term strategic goal and those projects that are in the queue in those future years. So just to expand on that, that really focuses on, that prior slide really focused on the levy, but what is being completed with some of those levy funds. So some of the projects coming up, we have some street refurbishment and reconstruction projects, like you've seen around the community these last couple of years. We have around $2.6 million in 2023. New Public Works truck and dump box, snow blower. We have some pavement over at the Public Works building planned. The community center with some facilities and community park equipment, park and trail improvements, life extension, up at the golf course doing some water feature restoration, irrigation system upgrades. The clubhouse is getting some fire alarm upgrades, patio railings, building exterior staining. The community center facility, gym and locker room renovations, police digital video system and body cameras. And then, as I mentioned in EDA, we're doing some of those zoning and subdivision code updates as well. In addition, so we have the capital side. We also have some of those debt levies that support some of that capital. So in 2022, we do have just a little over $11,345,000 of debt outstanding. Primarily made up of our 2021 debt issuance. We have a little over $7.7 million. So we do have our capital levy, which supports a piece of the funding source, and then we also have our bonding funds. So we were able to bond, take advantage of some of those economies of scale and doing some of those larger projects that we wouldn't be able to do if we only had a smaller capital levy each year. So that's allowed us to really hit home on some of those key strategic projects here over the last couple of years, wrapping up here in 2023 with some remaining. Another item to note here, those 2016 A bonds, those are funded with LPI proceeds. So there's just an escrow that those are paid for. So as you can see, we will be paying off for a little over $1 million a year over the next upcoming years, and should set us up for debt options in the future as they come forward. So we've looked at the revenue and expense piece, but we just wanted to touch on market value, which market value and then net tax capacity, which are also a big piece of the story. Taxable market value, that's really that basis for the levy application. So we have our property values. Just as a reminder, residential and commercial industrial, those are set by the county assessor. And then on the utility side, those are set by the Department of Revenue a little bit later in the year. And that was net tax capacity. There's class rates that are applied to those taxable market values based on residential, commercial, industrial. Being in their class, they have a different capacity to be taxed, so those are applied. So overall, the city of Becker's net tax capacity increased 7.89% from 2022 to 2023. The overall numbers, a piece of it, but there's also that transition between residential and the commercial industrial. So we'll have some charts that will also look at that as well. So property values, the changes in market value. So to break that apart, that 7.89%, 24.3% of that increase, or at least the residential piece increased 24.3%. So this follows, those home sales that you've seen, increase significantly. Commercial industrial, that increased 7.9%, and then the utility increased 3.7%. So the overall net tax capacity increased 7.89%. I have a subsequent chart that'll show some of the allocation. So even though those percentage changes, just depending on what piece of the pie they made up, we'll also take a look at that. So tax capacity, just to expand a little bit on how that works and how it's calculated. So it really takes the market value and then applies that class rate. So for residential, the first 500,000, the class rate is 1%, and then anything over 500,000 is at 1.25%. And then the commercial industrial, first 150,000 is at 1.5%, and then the value over is at 2%. Tax capacity trend. So as mentioned, the tax capacity did increase 7.89% from 22 to 23, up to that $21,320,720. Over this 7 years, tax capacity increased right around 25%. So it gives you a snapshot of where our tax capacity has transitioned over time. So with that, we have our overall tax capacity, but another piece of that is the breakout. So on the right-hand side, you have the 2021 tax capacity allocation. So this was used for our Pay 22 taxes. So really the focus here, looking at residential and utility side. So for those Pay 22 taxes, residential made up 18%, utilities made up 71%. As we fast forward to this year, for the Pay 23, residential makes up 21%, utility at 68%. Within that breakout, there has been a transition of tax capacity between the utility and residential. So as noted, this shift in tax capacity is similar to what we will see, moving forward with some of the decommissioning of the power generation assets. So we'll continue to monitor that and work through what that looks like as we transition our tax capacity. So the tax rate projection, total levy rate for 2022 was 45.410%. The projection for 23 is 46.027, so a change in rate of 0.617. Just an item to note, the EDA rate, that just is applied to the commercial industrial users. So on the residential side, that city tax rate is at 44.906. Tax rate trend, so here's over the last 7 years where the trend has been. Predominantly right around that 40%. You know, in 17, 18, 19, 23, we're at that 46.027. So then what does this mean to a taxpayer? So this first slide here, this focuses on a estimated market value of 300,000, homestead exclusion of 10,200, so a taxable market value, as we discussed, of 289,800. Apply the tax rate of 1%, and you have your tax capacity of $2,898. Apply the city tax capacity rate, so it'd have a city owed tax of $1,284 in 2022. With no value change, the tax owed would be $1,301, so a change of $17 from 22 to 23. So with that, market values did change, like we've all seen in our own home values. So with this, just for example's sake, included a 20% increase in estimated market value from 300,000 up to 360,000. So with that, the market homestead exclusion decreases down to 4,800. So your taxable market value increases. Not only did your market value increase, your taxable market value increased, and then applying the class rate, the tax capacity for that same home at that higher value would be $3,552 in that column. And then applying the tax rate, city owed tax of $1,595, an increase of $311 or 24.2%. So then how are these residential taxes used, is a good way to then look at that. So for that $360,000 value home, annual amount of $1,595, right around $133 per month. So $5.11 is going to go to the joint fire levy. $7.98 would be the special revenue fund, the community center. Debt service levy would be $13.56 a month. That would be the principal and interest on those borrowed funds. Capital improvement levy for those capital improvements, those streets and infrastructure improvements for $41.90, and then the general fund operating levy, $64.37. That would be all the general government administration, as well as public safety, building, planning, public works, all the snow plowing, and all of those pieces as well. So that wraps up kind of the general fund or the governmental fund portion of it. And then I'll also have a few slides here just to talk about the enterprise funds and some of the budgets within there as well. So starting off the water fund, assumed a 2% rate increase on the water usage and base service fee charges for 2023, in line with the 2021 rate study that was prepared. And then on the domestic sewer side, 2% rate increase on the base domestic sewer charge, and then a 4% increase on the Tier 2 domestic sewer usage charges, also in line with the rate study. So touching on the water budget, projected revenues of $941,911, an increase of 9.4% over the previous year. This does include some water access charges related to the new connections for the one apartment building on the property north of the community center. That's just a little over $60,000 for those access connection charges. On the expenditure side, excluding capital outlay and depreciation, $533,868, which is an increase of 8.9%. And then once again, we not only look at where those rates fall within that rate study with our projections, but then where those cash flow needs. So, working in the revenues and expenditures into that cash flow, these are within those parameters that were set up within that rate study in 2021. We continue to monitor where the rates are, where the usage is, and that those rates are supporting and coming in within expectations. On the domestic sewer side, projected revenues of just a little over $1 million, an increase of 7.9% over the previous budget. Also includes those sewer access charges, just a little over $45,000. They would have other sewer access charges as well. We work closely with planning and what's happening in the community where there's new houses going up and really what they're projecting for activity within the year. And then on the expense side, excluding capital outlay and depreciation, $833,159, an increase of 21.1. Much like water, you know, the increase there on the expenditure side, you know, really being driven by the utility side, you know, just heavy utility users where they're using a lot of electricity, that is driving up those operational costs. Also within domestic sewer, I'll just add, you see the net loss on here of $628,000. We are proposing to move up some capital within our plans, using some of the reserves that are set aside for that. So we'll have, you know, we'll use up some of those reserves, but within the structure of the rate study, we still get to our cash needs as well. The industrial sewer side, so here revenues projected at $672,500, an increase of 0.9%. Expenses including capital and depreciation, $813,927. Here once again, you know, heavy utility user. So really that driving home with the operational increase. And here, you know, just to clarify, you know, this is LPI pays most of that revenue. So we continue to work close with them on their usage of the industrial sewer facility and where those rates are to cover those costs as well. So I touch a little bit on some of the capital project pieces, but just to highlight a few of the items that are happening in 2023 or are planned to happen in 2023. On the water side, a couple pump house refurbishments, and also working on a water comprehensive planning study. Domestic sewer, doing some fine screen and compactor upgrades, and then lift station refurbishment number 7. And then on the industrial sewer side, recoding of the industrial clarifiers 1 and 2. So that summarizes the governmental piece, the enterprise piece. Here's some contact information. So my contact information is on the top as the finance director. Feel free to follow up with any questions there. Property value questions can be directed directly to the county assessor with the contact information there. And then as a reminder, the Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting is held in April of 2023, right here at the City Council Chambers for the Pay 24 property valuations, and the county assessor does attend to answer any questions for residents as well. So with that, just this slide just summarizing tonight, but otherwise I can answer any questions or any comments that that council has, and then we can look at public comment, and then can discuss some of the approvals that I have available as well. Thank you.
Anything from council? We've lived this budget since July, so how about, Mark, if you want to go ahead and see if anyone from the public has any comments? If you do, you could just step up to the podium, ask your question, and our finance department is more than happy to help answer them. Mr. Kolbinger.
Well, good evening. I'm not sure that I have a question, just a couple comments. I was at Sherburne County's Truth and Taxation meeting last week, and they said they had the biggest crowd ever at a county meeting. So I thought there'd be a ton of people here tonight, but I guess I was wrong. So just 2 comments, I guess, in the stewardship thing. I know how complicated the budget is. I know how difficult it is. As a city council, you really only have one option, and that's to determine how much you're gonna spend. You don't have anything to do with tax value and anything like that. So I think the 9.4% in new spending is excessive. That's my personal opinion. The second piece, the transparency issue, and I realize it's been 14 years since I was on council, but when I was, the executive sessions were kind of a rarity. There wasn't a lot of them, and now we've gone and we've operated with, I believe, 1 every month at least. And I've noticed that city council meetings many times are done in less than a half an hour. So I'm kind of a policy geek. I went back and read all the executive session meetings for the past 4 years. There's a lot of things that the people don't know are being discussed. So I would like you to consider the sunlight clause, that doing business in public with people being able to watch and understand what's going on would lead to a more transparent situation, more citizen engagement, maybe people would understand the need for the higher taxes and some of the things that are going on. So, again, just my 2 comments. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
All right. With that, I do have 2 RCAs in front of you tonight. The first one, Mayor Bertram and Council, is the 2023 governmental fund budgets and levies. So really the final step in the budget process to adopt a resolution approving the budgets and setting the final levy to be certified to the county. 2 resolutions included. One is the general fund, community center, fire department fund budgets, as well as operating capital and debt service levies. And then the second is the EDA budget levy. Included a breakout within the RCA. With that, levies, once they're approved, would be submitted to Sherburne County by the deadline of December 27th. So with that, I would ask for a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2289 related to governmental fund budget and levy, as well as Resolution 2290 adopting the final levy for the EDA for the city of Becker. Can answer any questions on the RCA as well.
Guess I'd just like to offer one comment. So reference to the 9.4% on its face value is it's a big number. About half of that is the front. Mark had mentioned, Mr. Evans had mentioned the front loading of some streets projects. So with the upcoming Sherco closings, obviously that's going to affect the tax revenue that's coming in. So part of this budget, about half of that 9.4% increase is call it a one-time. We're going to front load some street projects here this next year. This will be the last year that we have all tax revenue for all 3 of the Sherco units. And so about half of that is like a one-time infusion of the cash to the street to do street projects. So if you take that and then you say, well, what is the other half? That is you think of public works and how much electricity, those pumps, everything that's all the stuff that is in a wastewater plant. Those are heavy electric users, and we all know what our electric bills have been. The city's not immune to that. We have to pay the higher electric bills like everybody else. You think of the diesel for a snow plow. This diesel's still over $5 a gallon. Things like that. So that's where that other piece is coming. Is that it's not a we didn't go on a big shopping spree. We didn't, most of this is inflation related, and then we have the other piece being the streets piece for trying to get some projects in before the Sherco unit starts to close down the next year. So I guess I just want to maybe just as a response to your comment there, that it's not a big shopping spree, that we didn't just those are the primary drivers of, when you say what is 9.4%, what does that get us? Those are the primary drivers of that. With that, since everybody's staring at me, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2289, adopting the final budget and levy for the city of Becker for taxes payable 2023.
I will second.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And then I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2290, adopting the final levy for the EDA for taxes payable 2023.
I will second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any other discussion on that? With none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2291, adopting the final 2023 budget for the water and domestic sewer and industrial sewer.
I will second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any other discussion on that one? With none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Does council have anything else for the betterment of Becker? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 6:36.